Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Aligning with Success. Wow, do I ever look bright on this thing? What's going on? There we go. It's a little better. These Nikken lamps are really pushing it tonight. All right. Good evening, everybody. So where do we pick up? Where did we leave off? I guess I should say. I think that's what it is. I got maybe a little bit of oil on my face. Is that a little bit better? I'm sweating here at the computer as I'm working away. Anyway, no, that didn't help. Oh well, okay, whatever. Thanks for joining, everybody. Welcome back. Does anybody have any comments or things that you want to get started with before I get into what I want to get into? Any announcements, anything that we need to know about? Immediate, urgent? It seems these days there's so much going on. I can't keep track of it all myself. So it's good. I mean, those are the kind of reports you want to hear. Yeah, Barbara.
The last thing you covered, Mike, was you went over your presentation from Master Day. That's where we left off.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you. So intention plus mechanism equals result. So we understand. We now understand implicitly that everything is organized by laws, whether we appreciate those laws, understand those laws or not. It all affects us, and better we understand. I mean, I asked my kids the same question Larry Prophet used to ask us in gold training. He said, "Do you like rules?" I asked my girls, "Do you like rules?" And they're entrepreneurs. They're like breaking all the rules. Like, no. I said, "Well, do you like them when you're playing a sport?" So yeah, you do like rules when you want to win, right? When you're playing to win, it's pretty good to know what the rules are. And I've made the study of these rules not just a scientific study, but also a spiritual one, and they all correlate, in my opinion, to the same thing, and that is that we do create our own reality, and therefore guard your thoughts, especially those that you put attention and emotion in, because those are the things that you're feeding, and those are the things that the hologram called life, the universe, will reflect, will mirror back to you. And it almost seems like, okay, so Mike, how does that account for like 8 billion people on the planet? If everybody has got their own thing going on, this is when we get into multidimensional concepts. It's very abstract and very powerful to understand that, yes, there are in fact 8 billion planet Earths, not one. Each person is perceiving a reality, and everybody's perception is their reality. And therefore, there are 8 billion perceptions of this planet, its people, and everything. Now, what we do agree on are some fundamental things, thank goodness, or we couldn't play together. So remember, as kids, we used to play games in like a sandbox, or our school teacher would organize us into a group setting, and we would play, maybe they would explain the rules, and then we would play this game. And if you broke the rules, you were reprimanded or something, you had to sit out or whatever. So the collective experience was made possible by some set of rules that we had to agree on if we wanted to play. And so when we came into this environment called the life experience on planet Earth, we came with a set of rules that we were accepting to adopt in order for us to play together, in order for us to have this collective experience. And one of the rules that we agreed to, think of it this way: think of you're like a Broadway actor or actress, and when you set on, when you start doing your part, what makes it possible for this production to actually happen? The first thing they design are the sets, right? They have to create the sets so that when you're in character and you're performing on stage, you're in a set, and the set defines the moment in time, and the dialogue revolves around that experience. So what we have all agreed to is the set being the sky, the planet, the trees, the birds, the this, the that. That's the set. We agreed to participate in this set. And you know, we have some luxuries and some privileges of being able to augment the set, like you can change the look and color of your home and the feel and so forth like that. There are some microsets. But at the end of the day, we agreed to certain rules and certain sets that make it possible for us to interact on this planet and have somewhat of an experience, a collective experience. However, we also agreed to be susceptible to the mass consciousness. In other words, there is a stream of consciousness that happens regardless of whether we agree to it or not. There's a collective experience. And so within the collective experience, what we experience as a collective, there's our own individual account of that experience. And of course, if there are puppet masters who enjoy changing the script on us and are able to somehow convince the collective that their script is better than the previous one, and the masses go along with it, then what happens is we collectively experience the new script, the new whatever it is. So, you know, if you were hell-bent on controlling the world, all you would want to do is control the narrative. So those are where the puppet masters usually find themselves, is they're the ones in charge of the narrative, and they convince the masses the sky is falling or it's going to rain or whatever they're going to convince them of. And as long as there's enough people, 51%, collectively accepting that narrative, then that's the reality we're all going to experience. And then within that experience, I can choose to open up an umbrella and not get rained on. So we have the individual experience, we have the collective experience, and of course the goal here is just don't allow yourself to be susceptible to the collective experience unless it aligns with what you want to experience. That's real simple. So I stopped listening to the mainstream media decades ago. I really don't pay attention to that propaganda at all, because I'm not interested in the collective experience. If I was interested in the collective experience, I'd be rich. I would be broke, sick, and miserable. That's what it means to be part of the collective, is to be broke, sick, and miserable, because that essentially is the collective experience. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't want to be part, if you don't want to be part of the collective, you got to step out of the collective experience and all the thoughts that go with it and all the propaganda that go with it and all that stuff. And you got to start creating your own personalized experience. And maybe you can find other people like you that want to have that kind of experience. And that's how we became Nikken family. We gathered around something that we wanted to have a collective experience around. Better health, better wellness, better way of thinking, better way of acting, a better way of contributing, so that we were in alignment with what was really in our hearts. And so the Nikken experience is really a micro experience within the collective, and we get to create a collective experience within our community that is aligned with the principles of success that we have acknowledged and agreed to. And so last week's presentation was really a better understanding of those rules, those laws that are operating, so that you can be more effective at creating your own reality, which means start to program your thoughts. Be the one programming your thoughts. Don't be programmed by social media. Don't be programmed by the mainstream. Don't be programmed by the mass consciousness. Be programmed by those things that are in alignment with the experience you want to have. The people, the places, that's what I'm talking about. So stay connected, stay closely connected to the people, the thoughts, the places that best represent the kind of lifestyle you want to create for yourself and your family. So having said all that, that's not what I was going to get into tonight, but it's a good recap, I think. but it is kind of part and parcel of something that I am interested in getting into tonight. And that is for us on this call to begin a new collective experience. So we had a call, not sure when it was. I think it was last Monday. I've lost track of time. No, it was Tuesday. So we had a call, I believe it was Tuesday. Forgive me if I got that wrong, but some of you were on that call for a team we call the Nikken Field Leadership Organization. It's a new field leadership team. It's those who want to play Nikken at a new level, those who want to share in a new collective experience. So what we have agreed to is we're going to start operating on a new level of conditions, on a new understanding of what it means to help people get started, to what's the business we're building, what are the expectations we have for ourselves, for others. It's just a new collective experience in Nikken. And this is not the first time we've done this, by the way. I've been through this a few times. When I first launched Nikken in Canada, we created a collective experience in Canada in terms of those opening months. And maybe that whole first full year before we started to interface and integrate with the Nikken collective in North America. And then that happened. And then what happened after that was a new team within that organization emerged that decided we wanted to have a new collective experience. So we called ourselves Team Diamond, and we started to create a new collective experience within Nikken, which was a team of people who really wanted to go for the brass ring. It was really a wonderful experience because all the moving parts of the business were working really, really well together. And it created a new experience. And I'll tell you, that new experience was hypergrowth. We went into hypergrowth and we started to experience turbulence, as what happens in an airplane when it gets a little bit too fast and there's a little bit too much crosswinds. It starts to experience turbulence, which happens. And so we went into another collective experience, which was the turbulent years, which were then reestablished to another collective experience when we had a new CEO and president and so forth. So we've been through a few different experiences in Nikken, but we are now at a point, we made this announcement on that call that we are moving into a new collective experience. That experience is going to be heralded at an event in Irvine, California in December called the Boss Event. So we're going to cement, if you will, or ink the blueprints of that new collective experience there. And that will propel us into 2024 with the understanding of this new engagement, this new collective experience. So if you want to participate, if you want to be part of this new emerging collective experience, I want to give you some things to think about because these are very, very salient points. If we look upon the history of when we were doing that hypergrowth, when we were in hypergrowth, there were certain dynamics, there were certain things that were happening, and many of you on this call actually experienced them, which makes this new collective experience even possible. Plausible for sure, but possible, better than possible, because we're going to draw upon the collective experience that many of us already had. So I'm going to make this very simple for you. I'm going to break it down into real numbers and whatnot. But essentially, what we are establishing is a group of people who will want to bring their Nikken business to a new level, a higher level of performance. Sue, I'm getting a bit of feedback from your thing, so I'm just going to mute that if you don't mind here. Here we go. So let's start with some things that are looking like there's some attention being drawn to that are shaping up into a new collective reality. One of the things that came out in 2023, at the beginning of 2023, which took about 3-4 months at least for people to sort out, and we got these processes that needed to be simplified, was this program called the Powerhouse. So it was unlike any previous program. It was very specific to an item, a product, and it has a very specific compensation plan within a compensation plan. That's what we call an incentive, to maximize the earnings of somebody who is getting started in the business. Originally, it was tailored to be the first month plus 2 months. It was specifically tailored to be a launch strategy, which I was the one who encouraged that, because I still believe that's what it should be. I don't think it should be something that happens indefinitely. I think it should be something that brings a call to action in the opening months of somebody's journey in Nikken as a business builder. So we got this thing called the Powerhouse, complete with its own bonuses. The next thing that we had in the incentive program is the 18K. Now, to my understanding, there's no one that has achieved 18K in North America in 2023. There's a reason for it. And what I've identified as one of the main reasons for it is because what's been missing in our collective experience is establishing lofty goals. That was something that our previous collective experience shared in common among diamonds and royal diamonds who were setting the pace. So the diamonds and the royal diamonds who were part of Team Diamond were literally setting the pace, the marching orders, if you will. It came from top down. It was what we referred to as a top-down strategy. So you'll hear me use this language a little bit more. There's a bottom-up strategy and a top-down strategy, and both have to be working at the same time for the plan to work, for momentum to actually happen, and for forward motion to happen. Kind of like in our business, we have the left oar and the right oar, we have the retailing oar and we have the sponsoring oar, and you need both oars in the water to get the boat to move forward. Well, in our business, to get the business to move forward and have a collective experience called momentum, in order to do that, we got to get a whole bunch of people on the same page, moving at the same time, pointed in the same direction. Now, try to do that with a bunch of entrepreneurs who have their own interpretation of what it looks like. So that's where Team Diamond really came in, as a group that provided a top-down strategy to get all the boats pointed in the right direction, so that when you're rowing, we're all rowing together, and together we created this wave. And in this wave, we created a vacuum effect, which drew a bunch of boats in behind us. So many people experienced success that probably on their own they would not have experienced had it not been for being swept up in the vacuum of the wave that we created, those who started this top-down strategy. In order to make the bottom-up strategy effective, we needed a plan. And so we started working on launch plans. And so we had a very specific way of getting people started in the business. It was very particular. And yes, while everyone had their own decisions to make and there were variations, the main presentation was always pointing to a way to get started. And so the getting started process was very specific, very defined, and people, for the most part, adhered to it. And so I'm going to get back to that in a minute. And so what we had was we had a getting started procedure that everybody collectively adopted. We had a launch strategy that anyone who really wanted to launch this as a business collectively adopted. And why they adopted it was because they were being taught from the top down. They were being trained and educated by those who they experience as credible and have success. And so they adopted it. But the thing was, the top also had expectations, goals. And so we were helping people, particularly those of us who are platinum or diamond and above. We were looking for people who wanted to go platinum. Our focus group, if you will, were platinums. And what that created was the movement for people to want to achieve platinum and subsequently diamond, those two categories. That created the vacuum effect that drew many people into the business in the wake of that activity, and created many silvers and many golds. So if it wasn't for this top-down strategy, there would not have been this movement, this momentum. It was critical to the whole thing. So what we are proposing, the NFL team and the leaders of that team, as that we initiate a top-down strategy, but first let's take stock of what it is that we actually have in terms of a bottom-up strategy. Our bottom-up strategy is that we have a great program to initiate activity with somebody new in the business who's looking to do this as a business, called the Powerhouse. It is where they maximize their earnings and their potential earnings by promoting the Powerhouse. The second piece of this, which has not yet been adopted, that we are working on next as a top-down strategy, is the 18K. Now, here's where the history lesson comes in. I asked this question on the call. I'm going to ask on that previous call, the leadership call. I'm going to ask that question tonight. Some of you are muted out, but you can use your hand in the reactions button on Zoom to raise your hand. So let me ask this question. Here's the question. If you are somebody who either achieved silver or helped someone else achieve the rank of silver when silver was 20,000 points volume in one calendar month, raise your hand if you're somebody who either achieved silver or helped somebody achieve silver with a 20,000 point volume in one calendar month. Okay, so some of you have, yeah, Solange, that's you. You would raise your hand. And Lynn, did you go silver as a 20,000 point silver? It was after that. Okay. And let's see who else. I know Dee was on. Some of you can't raise your hand because you may be on a phone or something. You're not quite sure how to do it. All right. There's about half of you anyway, I'm seeing on the screen, and I know more of you. There's some more hands coming up. Yeah. Okay. So there's at least half, if not more. Yes, Lynn. Okay. Lynn does as well. So we're past the halfway mark. All right. You can all put your hands down now. You can put your hands down now. So at least half of you at some point in time did what a person does when silver was 20,000 points in 1 month. And if we actually examine what it is that you did, it was probably a focused effort. And since it was in a month, you didn't have the luxury of waiting until next month. It was all pretty much, let's go. And you started to develop momentum within your own experience. You helped somebody, or you yourself started building momentum. Momentum was critical to your ability to achieve silver when it was 20,000 points in a month. And guess what else was critical? Team. Team was critical because you couldn't buy 20,000 points in a month yourself. So you had to build a team. So that was another critical element, was team. There was another thing that was very specific in that silver, that 20,000 points in a month. If you recall back then, we had a thing called a demo pack and a career pack. A demo pack was, if I'm not mistaken, about 700 points. And a career pack, if I'm not mistaken, was 1,000 points volume. And one of the things that we would ask people to do in getting started as a business was get your demo pack and career pack. And so that was the norm. That was not the exception. If people were starting in the business, they were told there was a good, better, and best option. And we presented all three options in our presentations. We presented all three options in our conference calls. We presented all three options from stage. In other words, there was always three things presented: good, better, best. Good was around 1,500 points in volume. Again, the demo pack, career pack combination was the most common starting point. Next was better, which was 3,000 points. And then finally was best, was 5,000 points. Did anybody here enter Nikken with 5,000 points as your own personal investment in your business? Mary did. Anybody else? Barbara did. Madeline did. Okay, so hands down.
Did.
Had it, Jane did. So a bunch of you did that. So that's already like you know, half of the people who said that they did a 20,000 point silver, or a quarter of them anyway. So to have somebody get their Nikken business career started with 5,000 points as an initial product order, both for themselves personally to use and products to have on hand for demonstrations, just hence the demo pack, that was a way of getting started. That was something that we offered. And what would happen is, between the good, better, and best, clearly there was more people getting good, some people getting better, and a few people getting best. But those were the options that were presented. And that is how people started the engine of their Nikken business and their career. Now, the standard that set was for somebody to hit, you know, if you started with a demo pack and career pack and you sponsored 3 people with a demo pack and a career pack, that's 6,000 points. Now, in today's compensation plan, that would make you a silver. In the previous one, the 20,000 point, that's just getting started. You're just getting started. Now you're working with your partners and you to generate the balance of that volume, which came from a combination of things. But let's just say sponsoring was one of those things. Well, if you looked at the breakdown of that, so some people, for instance, they joined Nikken with 5,000 points, and what do you think they sponsored? They sponsored people with 5,000 points. So in that case, if they started with 5,000 points and in that same month they sponsored 3 who did what they did, because that's what they were offering, that's what they were telling them, do what I did, they'd be silver with 4 people, them and 3 other people. Well, today, if you did 1,500 points and you sponsored 3 people at 1,500 points, you'd be silver. So it doesn't have to be a long and windy road. It can be just simply an exercise in getting started, getting your team in place to actually get going. It's not, we haven't even done anything yet. We're just getting our team in place. I had this exercise once. I told this story many years ago, a fellow that I sponsored who invited 13 people into his living room. But before that, we set a crazy goal to do 200,000 volume his first month and break platinum, which then was 6 silvers. Each had to do 20,000 points in that month. So they had to get registered, they had to get prospected, presented, registered, enrolled, and vested and duplicated all in 1 month. I mean, it sounds pretty insane, right? It sounds like, who would even try that? Well, yours truly did, and so did this individual, because they trusted me and they didn't know any better. And I repeat, they didn't know any better, which is an incredible advantage that you have when you're enrolling somebody. They don't know any better. They will trust you. They will go with what you say is the collective experience. Hence, if we can get a consensus on what the collective experience is in this new experience, then we're going to see a radical shift in behavior in terms of results. So anyway, this guy, he says, okay, I'll buy $20,000 myself, 20,000 points myself, I'll be silver. And then we'll get the 6 other people to do the same. And I said, and we'll sponsor the 6 other people and we'll go. I said, wait a minute. How many of those people do you think can invest 20,000 points? He said, none of them. I said, so then what do you think they could do? He said, 5,000. I said, okay, then that's what you do. You do what you're going to ask other people to do. And so that was how we kickstarted that business. And when we presented to the people the opportunity and they wanted to know what's the price of admission, we said there is no requirement by Nikken, but if you really want to succeed and you want to do it in this month with this plan, here's what you need to do. And guess what? 12 of 13 people said yes. And on day 7 of the opening month, the 7th day of September, 12 orders for 5,000 points went in. That individual did 60,000 points their first day, but they haven't done anything yet. This was just to get the team to say we're in and get them ready. We had 3 weeks to really rock and roll and start duplicating. At the end of those 3 weeks, there was 10 new silvers, 2 golds, 220,000 points in volume. Now, folks, if you look at the dynamics of what happened there, and you say, okay, by today's standards, what would they be? They'd be a diamond. But what if we broke that down instead of a 5,000 point? And by the way, people were asked good, better, best, and the average was 3,000 points, by the way. It was 71 people, I think, at 3,000 points was the average volume. So the better was usually the choice, and the good, better, best, better was usually the choice in the average, which is why it's good to have for three choices, good, better, best, because the average will be the middle one. So now, if we looked at today and said, okay, that standard was pretty high, pretty remarkable, that's the extreme, what would it look like today if we set a new standard, if we chose to set a new standard as a collective? What if good, better, best was 3 packs? The 3 packs that we have, good being 1 pack, better being 2 packs, best being all 3 packs. What if that was the scenario? Then the average, the midpoint, will be the 2 packs. The 2 packs combined, let's say it's the water pack and the energy pack. I don't know what the numbers are on that, but I'm sure it's around 1,500 points.
I just did
okay.
it. The water pack and the energy pack is 1373, and if you add a queen size sleep pack, comes up to 2606.
13. Okay, so that's the 3 packs is 2606.
2606 with a queen sleep pack.
Okay, so 2 packs would be close to 1,500 points. Maybe you'd throw in an extra flex or something like that.
An auto ship.
Oh yeah, there you go, an auto ship. So because you're going to need the waterfall replaced, the replenishments on that. Anyway, so let's say we're talking about good would be 500 points or thereabouts. There's something on those packs. What's the least is the water pack. What's that about?
Water pack with the shower with the handheld is 608. The other one's 590.
Okay,
And
so between
energy
590, let's just say 600 points. So the water pack is 600 points. That's good. The water pack and the energy pack is around 1,500, close to 1,500 points. That's better. The water pack, the energy pack, and the sleep pack is around 2,600 points. That's the ideal way to get started, in my opinion. Today, the question people should ask is not what product should I get? The answer is always all of them. The question should be how should I get started now? But the answer to that is, well, there's good, there's better, there's best. Which one would you like to know about? And then wait for them to answer. And then present good, better, best as an option. So now, what would happen if you enrolled 3 people at good? Then that new person would advance to executive, right? If they help those 3 people enroll 3 people, they advance to silver. So now what we're starting to see is an advancement, an acceleration. If they did better as their standard, if that's how I started and that's what I promote, I start that way, I promote that way. Does everybody do what I say? No. Do some? Yes. If 3 do what I suggest, the 3 who say they really want to do this, well, 1,500 times 3 plus my 1,500, that's a silver ship. So creating a silver ship and just helping your team identify themselves should be pretty common. It's not an exercise in sales. It's an exercise in putting a team together. We haven't even started yet in terms of the sales that we're going to generate. So consider these concepts. So we have a bottom-up strategy. Now you might say, well, where's the powerhouse fit into this? Everybody's doing the powerhouse. They'll probably enroll the person with a waterfall as a customer, click upgrade and enroll the person with one of the packs, 2 of the packs, all 3 of the packs. And now what you have is your 1,500, your 5, your 15, your 2,500 point entries. And you have a process for getting somebody started and at the same time earning the most from the compensation plan. You're getting the most bang for your buck in terms of helping somebody get started. And what is it that you want to do when you're helping somebody get started? Answer, get a check in their pocket. Get a check. If somebody's starting this as a business, it's not for fun.
But it's for them also to have the tools that they need. It's kind of hard to do a business if you're a carpenter, if you don't have the tools, and it's hard to talk about a sleep system or water if you're not using it yourself or have it to demonstrate to show.
So if you're apologetic about getting somebody involved in this business properly, you're making a big mistake. So let's change the dynamic. Let's change the collective experience. No apologies necessary. You know, when somebody asked me, I remember a long time ago in Quebec, somebody asked me what they needed to do to get started. I said, you don't have to do anything, but if you want to make money, then this is what I suggest. And I told them good, better, best. This person didn't have the money to register, didn't even have the sign-up fee. They wore a beautiful suit. They looked spectacular. I'm sure they were going to do great. But so I sent them home with a philosophical message, which essentially was, when you figure it out, give me a call. Why? Why wouldn't I loan them the money to get started? Why wouldn't I sign them up? Why wouldn't I? Oh, don't worry. Don't worry. We'll fix it, because I wasn't apologetic about my business. I was looking for partners who were willing to do what it takes to succeed. And the first thing that he needed to do to prove to himself and to me that he was willing to do what it took to succeed was find the money. 3 months later to get started. 3 months later, I get a phone call. I got the money. Not only did he have the money to invest to get his business going, he had a down payment on a car. So he had transportation to get his business going. Now, how would you like a handful of people like that in your team? I'd rather have a person who really is hungry and is willing to do what it takes to partner up than anybody who can put a credit card down without blinking an eye. That person became a millionaire, built an incredible home, met his wife in Nikken, 2 beautiful kids. Let me tell you something. If you ask that person the best lesson Mike DiMuccio ever taught him, he'll tell you that story. Because many a times he came in front of somebody who said, I don't have the money. Now, what do? He told them a story. What story?
His story.
Yeah. So let's get back to the conversation here of bottom-up strategy. So we know we've got Powerhouse. We know we've got a good, better, best option to get people started, and we're going to adopt that. We know we have 18K. So what is 18K? How would one achieve 18K? Now, here's to all of you who did silver. Silver in 1 month was 20,000 points. What's 18K?
Less than 20.
It's 90% of 20. Now, the 18K, Nikken is giving you how much time?
3 months.
Did you need 3 months to do 20K?
3 months.
Did
No.
you need 3 months to do 20K?
No.
No, it worked against you. The more time you take, it works against you. People don't have that kind of attention span. The enthusiasm can wane if things are not happening fast enough because they're distracted by a million other reasons to be distracted. So I find that the more you compress time, the better it is for everybody. Do not take 3 months.
The other thing
Do
is
it
the
in a month.
compensation. The compensation with 3 times 6,000, they're not going to be making enough money to want to stay in to feel that it's worth the effort.
Now here's the song I want to sing for you here, Madeline, and everybody else. If you did what we did to produce a 20,000 point silver in a month with today's compensation plan, would you make more or less?
I have to figure that out. If
You'd
with
make
the,
more. So why not set a new standard? Why not go back to what we already know we can do? We've done it. We've experienced it. Half of us, at least on this call, if not more. And if we only have to do 90% of that, we can do 90% of that. We've done a whole 100% of that, and we did it in a month. And he has given us 3 months, but we don't need 3 months. So now, if you work the numbers backwards with good, better, best, let's say I was sponsoring somebody today, and I said, pick your path, good, better, best. I don't care what it is. Pick one, because that's what we're going to duplicate. And the median is going to be 1,500 points, or 2 packs. So now there's 1,500 points. If they enroll 3 people in week 1, because we're going to do a meeting, we're going to do 2 or 3 meetings, we're going to do what we used to do, focus and get something done quick. Now they're silver. Is that the goal? Nope, that's not the goal. That's just laying a foundation for building a team. If I now work with those 3 people and do the same thing in weeks 2, 3, and 4, and each of those do 3 at 1,500 points, they all go silver, there's your 18K. So now what I have is a plan that looks awfully suspiciously close to this. In fact, it exactly is this, which you've seen in my hands since you've been on my calls. There's a reason why I never change my strategy, because this is the strategy that has worked and made millions for me. Millions for me. Created a huge international business. Are there other strategies? Probably. Are they as effective? No one has broken the records I've made, so I don't think so. So I would suggest that we adopt something immediately that really lines up all of our incentives and our compensation plan, which is the powerhouse, the 18K. Put those 2 together in a focused launch of somebody new in the business who says they really want this, and you focus your attention on that. Then you help that person get it done. You set a standard for duplication. Pick one, good, better, best. We're going to ask everybody to do that. Again, you probably heard me tell this story, but I'm telling it again. This story was Linda Proctor when she first met Bob Proctor at a seminar. She was selling insurance and she was making at that time $25,000 a year. At the end of their lunch meeting, Bob had suggested to her she do 2 things, just 2. She had to be in front of somebody at 9 o'clock in the morning to talk about insurance, and she had to ask every person she talked with to buy a $100,000 insurance policy. Now he said, now they don't all have to do it. They probably won't, but some will. So with that in mind, those 2 things, she went to work, and that year earned $495,000. Now, she didn't become some guru all of a sudden. She didn't have some magical moment where she was transported into spirituality or something. She just did 2 simple things with some degree of consistency, and the compound effect did the rest. So I'm suggesting this as our new collective experience, is when we ask somebody good, better, best, we really don't care which 3 they pick, which of the 3 they pick. We ask them so that we now know what they are going to ask others to do. And that's what we're going to ask them to ask others to do. And we're going to remind them, not everybody has to do it, but some will. And that's your core. That's your core partners, the ones who actually do it, because they're now setting themselves up for success. They're now setting themselves up for duplication. And that's what it takes to build this business, is a standard of duplication. That's what makes franchising franchising. The franchise that has the most successful operating system, meaning the most adhered to operating system, is the most successful. And they're very stringent about what it takes. And so we need to have some degree of that in our collective experience if we're going to establish momentum, if we're going to create a collective experience of success, a new level of success, which is kind of a repeat of the old level of success. But the difference is we have a compensation plan that will reward us better. Imagine that. Imagine the past operating procedures, the way we operated and set people up to succeed in today's compensation plan. Holy crap, that's super. Madeline?
And getting ready, today I found an old green book, one of the old green ones, and I just put this all together. I have my new presentation book. So the new
Beautiful.
presentation book is everything that you talked about tonight. The pricing sheet, all the incentives, I have them all in here to point out what it takes. And I found one of these left. Are you still selling the
Yeah, that's still available.
business plan? And I
That's still
also
available.
life cycle chart to suggest HBM as well, so that
Okay.
that auto ship. I have the the incentive for the summer for the weight management one, but also
Let's not get off of that. Let's
Yeah.
just stick to the fundamentals. So thank you for that, Madeline. So Madeline's already ready to go because she was on that call and she's applying what we talked about on that call. So far I've been talking about bottom-up strategy with a little bit of top-down. Let me explain top-down a little bit more in a practical way. So what I'm doing right now is I'm seeking, and I already have people now identifying themselves to me, those who wish to be mentored by me to achieve 18K. Okay. Nikken has an 18K program, but the next incentive is the mentoring club, where you can get your vacation or your Nikken reward experience to the next event. So we have a next event. That is part of the top-down strategy and bottom-up strategy. Where the two converge is at the next event. Now go back in history, guys. You will recall that the next Team Diamond event or major event that you had in your region was a stage to recognize achievement. And everybody targeted their rank advancement for that stage, for that event. I targeted my advancement in rank to Royal Diamond for the Edison, New Jersey event. So all my activities were organized, all the boats were rowing in one direction for the Edison, New Jersey event. That was the event that was going to be the reveal, if you will, of the success of the previous 90 days. So when you have an event that you're programming your activities for, around, and now especially interesting is this incentive, because I used to run incentives to the event. I might reward somebody with a hotel room or 2 nights. I might reward somebody with an airfare or something of that sort. I would do things to acknowledge the work and the effort that went into the success story for that event that I could then parade around and showcase as the next major announcement of success stories. And that's how we were creating silvers, golds, platinums in a flash, because we were focused on it. It was something from the top down that we were actually focusing on. And what you bring attention to, what you focus on, as we just learned in the previous presentation, is what you manifest. You start to attract. So we have the boss event. The boss event is a limited event, guys. It's limited number of people. So if you haven't yet booked your ticket or your flight, we had a gal on Leo's call tonight. She booked 2 people. I don't know how she did it, but she booked 2 people through bookings.com to get air and 3 nights hotel, 2 people for $1,200. That's extraordinary, from Quebec to Irvine. So I wouldn't wait if you're planning on being there. And of course, now that they're committed to going, what do you think their focus is? Now that they know they're there,
getting the
they've made the
reimbursement,
commitment.
getting the reimbursement, winning the reimbursement.
Yes, winning the reimbursement. And how do you win the reimbursement, Madeline?
The 15,000 plus sponsoring 3 people. No, it's
Sounds a lot like this plan that we're talking about. So
same
you
thing.
see how these things all dovetail together? Now your bottom-up strategy met with the incentives and the top-down pull creates all the moving parts. Now there's focus and attention. Now we can give focus and attention to those gals because they now have a reason to get busy. They put the stake in the ground by buying their tickets. No different than when somebody buys their products. When they buy their initial investment, they put a stake in the ground and now they're committed. Until then, they're not committed. If a person doesn't buy their products, I know they're not committed. And I don't have time for people who are not committed. Do you? The CEO of your business?
That's when I put the book together. I prepaid for the room, not the flight yet, but the room and buying the ticket. So
Okay. So I'm just giving you all the nuggets here, guys. Take notes, apply it if you will, but get yourself registered, booked to that event. I've already got my hotel. My air is covered by my my air miles. I got 1 million of those. However, guess what? I want to win the points too. I want Nikken to pay for because I want to be an example. So as I was saying, top down, what I'm on the hunt for now in the mentor club is who wants to do 18K. So now I have a strategy. It's kind of like in the day when I would focus on who wants to go platinum, because my target at Royal Diamond was to help people, pull people from the organization who wanted to go platinum in the next 90 days. Heck, if I could help somebody go platinum in the next 90 days, that'd be a great success story to parade around on stage for the next group, lying in waiting. So that's how we operated. That's the top-down strategy. So the diamonds and the Royal Diamonds who can imagine somebody going platinum focused on finding who wants to go platinum, and then collectively we would work at their plan for the next 90 days to apply the incentives, apply everything that we had in our toolbox to help them focus and get that blast off. And then, of course, what would they do? They would turn their attention to who do they know, and they would start networking, looking for their partners and their prospects for this agenda. It wasn't a general, oh, I'm just looking for sales. I'm just looking to help people. No, there was a party happening in California and we're going to it and we're going to have Nikken pay for it. So it was a project, and we looked for the people who would be part of the project and be a foundation for maybe the next wave. So it was top-down strategy. It's very focused, and it created a ripple effect. So right now I'm looking for my 18Ks. Nikken has a process where you register as a mentor, as a mentee for a particular person, which formalizes the relationship to some degree. And now I have somebody I can actually talk to, like I'm talking with you, to put some plan together and to get busy. So my schedule of events, my schedule of Zooms and so forth, go to them. My time and energy focuses on them because they put the stake in the ground. And now my business is not a generality of waiting for somebody to call or for, doing the odds and ends. It's now very targeted. It's very specific. And when that happens, when you put attention and focus like a laser on something, this law of attraction thing comes to life and starts pulling all the pieces together. The reason why people don't get this law of attraction is because they're not laser focused. Their light is scattered everywhere. You've got to focus your attention. You've got to focus what it is that you're trying to create. And then shorten the amount of time. So all this that has been put in place with Boss has really helped us capture what was the thing that made it work in the past, was the combination of a top-down and a bottom-up strategy that converged at a point in space and time. And the convergence point is the special event. That's how it works, guys. Now, it's not going to be the only event, but it's sure as heck the next event. And it is 90 days out, a little bit more. So you have your plan, you have your agenda, you have your bottom-up strategy. You now have a good, better, best as a new expectation in terms of enrollment of what it takes to get somebody rolling in the business. And now you have a plan, an action plan, top down, bottom up. Any questions? If you have a question, go ahead and unmute and ask. Otherwise, let me carry on. Is there any question about what this top-down strategy looks like? Okay, so again, I'm looking for 18Kers. So somebody now who hits my radar is somebody who's going to do 18K because that's what they're putting their hand up for. Now, do I have a plan to work with somebody to generate 18K? Yeah, I have a launch strategy. We have a launch strategy of good, better, best. The average will be better. And we now know better, who sponsors 3 better, who sponsors 3 better, done. There's the game plan. We'll take everything else as it comes, but we now know what we want to create. And so once you know what you want to create, it starts to inform your language. It starts to inform what you present. So the work that I've been doing on creating a presentation for the business plan and launch strategy will show this visually, and you'll start to see. Have you seen it? Have I shown you guys it already? Pieces of that business plan? I think I have. And you'll start to, well, let me just show you one thing. So talking about good, better, and best. So here's a revision on a slide. I want you to note what the slide says. What do you see that's interesting or different on this slide? It's subtle.
Step 1,
Yes,
step 2, step 3.
there you go. So what's that imply?
It's a step.
Progression and choices, both.
Correct. So now what we have is not this or that. What's implied is it's all 3. How do you want to get started? See, it creates a new understanding and expectation. And trust me when I tell you, the people out there who are looking for what we have as an opportunity, they're looking for an opportunity to make money. And they understand that it takes money to make money. They're not shy about that. But here's what also I know. When you were the one doing silver at 20,000 points in a month, there was a need then at that time for people to make money. Yes? Do you think that need is less today? No. And so we need to recognize that the need for people to make money is just as true today as it was then. And so we need to show them a way. And the way that works, ideally, you've just heard. This is not a slow and methodical build. I'll tell you why I don't believe in a slow and methodical build. A slow and methodical build doesn't create energy and excitement. And what creates movement and momentum is energy and excitement. I'll give another example of a methodical build versus what I'm talking about, a launch. Take a globe of uranium. Anybody see the movie Oppenheimer? The new movie Oppenheimer? It's a story about the guy who was behind the Manhattan Project, the creation of the H-bomb, the atom bomb. And we tried to stop the H-bomb, but anyway, the atom bomb. The idea was you take a bunch of plutonium, refined uranium or plutonium, whatever it was in that case, and you implode it quickly. If you implode it quickly, it creates this, and we're talking about something not even the size of a basketball, and it creates what you saw in those videos, this massive explosion. Now, if I take that same uranium and I allow it to do what's called a fission reaction, burn slowly, I can run a nuclear power plant. That's taking that same amount of uranium, but controlling how much of it gets together at any one time. So I burn it slowly. And I have heat that can turn water into steam. That's one way of using the uranium. Atomic explosion is the other one. Which one do you think attracts more attention? Right? And if we remember Dave's presentation, what follows attention?
Money.
What follows attention?
Money and results.
Money and results. So do we want a slow burn or do we want to create an explosion? And so do we want to talk to a bunch of people over a long period of time, or do we want to do it really quickly? Do we want somebody to hold their attention for a long period of time waiting for those results, or do we want to give it to them now? Everything that's worth doing, taking more time is not a benefit. So take less time, do it quick. Let's see, Mary's saying between now and October 31st, each of us could do 1 month of 15K to earn the boss incentive. And 2, what was the rest of that? And 2 months of 18K each. Okay, there you go. See, now you're thinking, now you're talking. This makes sense to me. And by the standards of how the best business months that I've had in the past, this is normal. This would be like, of course, like this is what we're doing. Do you have anything special in mind? This was the norm. So I'm talking about getting back to a place where, you know, coming into 2024, you're going to see this as, this is how we do it. This is how we do it. It's very specific. This is how we do it. This is how we produce the results. This is how we produce the success. If you want to be involved in Nikken and a success story, then this is what you're going to do. So we set a new condition, a collective experience where we now understand. Now, here's what's important about the collective experience. You get me on an ABC call. If I'm not speaking the things that you're speaking, I'm not validating you. That won't be good for the prospect. So we need to be thinking the same, speaking the same, and acting the same in order to have the collective experience. And so what I'm talking about giving birth to here, we've already done. Guys, we've already done it. Only this time we have a compensation plan that will really, really expose people to fast growth. Can you imagine? Think about it. If we were breaking silvers every month, that'd be the equivalent of breaking 18Ks every month, guys. That's 3 silvers per. It wouldn't be something rare. And I'll tell you what happened. I mean, again, going back to last week in the presentation that I did on Master Day, what you think about, what you expect, okay, you then inform the rest of you and the universe. So if we lower the expectation, if we lower the bar, oh, let's just make silver easier. Now, I asked this question at the call before. When silver was 20,000 points in 1 month, did anybody say this was easy?
It wasn't. No.
No, nobody said it. They would look at, they would say, oh, that's hard, but we did it. Well, that's hard, but we did it. People now look at 6,000 points in a month. Oh, that's hard. Those of you who did 20,000 points in a month and look at 6,000 points in a month, do you not see that 6,000 points in a month is easy compared to 20,000 points in a
It's
month?
like executive. It was one
Right?
Absolutely.
It's like the
That's right.
previous version of executive, right? And you knew who you were playing with, they would go executive. Executives went silver. Executives went silver. So if they didn't get to executive, they didn't get to silver, but executives got to silver. So it was sort of, we understood the dynamics, but I'm saying here, it's hard if you tell yourself it is. It's easy if you tell yourself it is, because what's the difference? It's perception. Once upon a time, 20,000 was hard. Now 6,000 is hard. Really? Who changed your mind about that? The collective. The collective changed your mind. You bought into it. And I'm saying, not the Nikken I know. The Nikken I know doesn't play by the rules of the network marketing industry standards, which in my opinion is the, I don't know, it's the sidewalk version of this business. Nikken is a hybrid. Nikken is the gold standard. Nikken is the Rolls Royce of this industry. And we need to showcase that. We need to show people that so that we can feel what we feel inside. We all feel inside about this company. But we haven't done the best job of presenting that or representing that in the last 15 years, in my opinion. I think we can do much better. And we need to go back to what we know works and pays. No more complaining about the compensation plan. 6% is 6%. If it's a little bit of volume, it's 6% of a little bit of volume. If it's a lot of volume, it's 6% of a lot of volume. So what is it that we have to focus on?
A lot of volume.
Volume. The volume running through the comp plan is what pays you, not the comp plan. It's the volume running through it. So where's the volume come from? It comes from people who invest in their health and who invest in their wellness enterprise. And if we lower the bar of what it takes in terms of an investment, we're pushing less volume through the compensation plan. And it affects everybody's bottom line. So I'm saying nothing wrong with the comp plan. What's wrong with is our attitude about volume. We need to refocus our attention on what we know is a standard that we should be setting. You know, what product should somebody get? All of them. What should they start with? Good, better, best. Pick one. And then we'll ask others to follow suit. Not everybody will do it, but some will. Those are your core partners, and then we'll do exactly the same thing with them. Then focus everything on a launch, not on a start, on a launch, not on a start, on a launch. What's the difference? The slow burn or the big explosion? Those are the dynamics. And the top-down strategy, believe me, I'm not the only one on the hunt. I'm not the only one who wants to start cracking some 18Ks and helping people win their boss trips. So with that in mind, figure out who your A is in your ABC calls. Get your ABC calls going. Understand what you're communicating. And let's get to work. Final comment. We're over the time. Anything? I want to know who gets this.
Fantastic, Mike.
Okay,
I get it.
I get it too. Let's get to work.
Thank you.
Right on.
Have a good night, everybody.
Night.
Good night, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you. Good stuff. Mhm.
Thank you.